Hello, and welcome to Cooking Up a Queen, a beginner's guide to the flagrant and fanciful world of queer nightlife. Hosted by finalist of Camp Wanakiki Season 2, Coco Jim Holiday, and the Madonna of your masturbatory fantasies, Touche Douche. Now without further ado, here are your hosts. Enjoy the show.
Once again, everybody, my name is Coco Gem Holiday.
And my name is Touche Douche.
Woo! Oh my gosh, thank you so much for joining another episode of this long-winded series we have where we like to talk about ourselves.
Because we're obviously experts in these fields.
But today we decided to break from the norm because we know you guys are so excited to keep hearing us talk. We actually are bringing on a special guest this week, known as the one, the only, Valerie Deville.
Yay! Hi, Valerie.
Hi. I mean, when you said talk about yourself, I was like, oh, well, that's my favorite thing to do. So I'll be right there and take the entire show.
Yeah, it's dangerous giving you a microphone. We've all learned.
Oh, it's true. I take them home.
Coco, that's what happened with yours at Barbarella. Okay, gotcha. It makes sense now.
Oh my gosh.
I never went to Barbarella, you guys.
You know, it's funny. I actually just, as a side note, I lost a microphone at a show that my husband was DJing at. And like, I'm literally just waiting for that microphone to turn up. At this point, I've bought new microphones because I had to, but like somebody's just going to be like, oh, hey girl, this show like 7 months ago before quarantine, like here's your microphone back.
I mean, I will say that maybe when everything opens up, someone, not me, but someone from The Last Laugh will be returning a microphone to CC Slaughters.
Oh.
Well, we won't tell anyone it was Wolfgang.
I know, it's a secret. Oh, please.
That's one of the mannequins he's trying to get rid of.
We all know it's Svetlana, please. Whoops.
I mean, I have the same problem with dildos. It takes 7 months for me to get them back sometimes. So I really can relate to your struggle, Coco.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So let's go ahead and get this interview started.
Mm-hmm.
I have so many fantastic, fun, and amazing questions I did not prepare for Valerie.
And I did prepare for Valerie, so I have questions.
That's fine, but we're going to start with the easy ones first. Right. So I did want to know, let's start with, where does your drag name come from, Valerie Deville? Yeah, just go ahead and explain that to us, for the listeners.
Okay, so, well, I mean, obviously, the obvious part for Deville is Cruella. I mean, through and through, I've always been inspired by Disney villains, so that was, like, my favorite thing growing up as a child. Like, I love the villains. Like, we have my very first, like, video of me as a child is me wearing a pillowcase around my waist, saying that I am a stepsister and I want to go to the ball. Like, Anastasia and Drusilla were my girls. Like, I was always identified with, like, those characters, you know, the bad characters, because I kind of felt like, you know, probably internally, like as a gay kid, I felt like the bad character, but they were always kind of like fabulous and funny and like, you know, always quirky and the center of attention at times, or, you know, so I kind of always kind of was inspired by them. And Cruella was just like, at that time in my life, I've gone through different phases where I've kind of felt like my inner Disney villain. So like, I've gone through different phases, and at that time in my life, Cruella was kind of it, and I've always kind of gone with it. So, you know, I don't like to skin puppies, but I kind of think she's just fun and absurd and loud and fashionable and just a diva and all that good stuff. And then when it comes to Valerie, so the first part is I grew up, obviously, I love television as well. And so I grew up, 90210 was my favorite show. I probably was way too young to be watching it, but the minute Tiffany Amber Thiessen came on my screen as Valerie Malone, like my little gay heart just exploded. I loved everything about her. She was wicked. She was not Kelly Kapowski anymore. Like, you know, she put on some weight and she was curvy and beautiful, and she fucked all of the guys on the show. Can I say fuck? I just did. But she banged all of them, even Steve, for God's sake. So I was really like totally into Valerie. And then on the other hand, besides like I wanted to exude the combination of like the sexy fun Valerie and then the wicked Cruella and like absurd cartoonish characters. And then the other thing about Valerie is my whole life, every Valerie I've met, I've actually never liked. I've never to the point, like every single one that I've ever met, I'm just like, God, she is a bitch. And so like when I was thinking, I was like, God, I want to be that bitch. So That's kind of the like thing that sealed the deal. Because I also love Real Housewives, so I was actually going to be Camille. Thank God I wasn't, because she's so problematic now. So I was going to name myself after Camille Grammer. So good thing I chose Valerie.
Wow, I love that journey. There was like an up and a down, a middle, and a story. It was everything for me.
Right.
I needed that.
Thank you. I thought long and hard about it.
So go ahead to Shay's question.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating to me that you brought it up. Is you said the villain nature of the Disney character of Cruella, and I think it's interesting to point out that a lot of queer entertainers are really drawn to villains. And I think it's because there was a lot of vilification of queerness in child entertainment for a very young age. So it's just a very fascinating thing that you latched onto that and really let it grow into something that is so successful.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to like empower that. I mean, like growing up, I always wanted like villain stuff every time, and like I would beg for it. So like for Christmas, I'd get like a mug because it's the only thing the Disney store had, or like a picture frame, and I was like 5 and like loved it. But now I'm happy that like in the last like 5 years it's exploded, and more and more people are not afraid of the scary characters because
Well, because they're amazing. I mean,
they're amazing. And they're all gay. They're all gay.
They all are. I mean, him was the
True.
gayest one you could ever get on a fucking cartoon from the Powerpuff Girls.
I mean, all of the male villains in Disney are gay. Like they all have eyeliner, or I mean, Gaston is a big gay daddy.
Oh, he could wreck me.
Exactly.
Oh, honey.
Frollo is your typical closet case politician. Like he is Republicans today. Like we see it, and they're part of the community and not like a Frollo fan, but
Yeah, you always have the ones that you don't quite like as much, but still tolerate because you want to be inclusive. For instance, my relationship with Ahsoka Sugar, me and Coco. I'm the inclusive one.
Yeah.
Indeed. Oh my gosh. I absolutely adore this. This is everything I wanted it to be. Oh my goodness. So going back to some of the questions that I think Touche said she wanted to ask is the fact that real briefly, how long have you been performing again?
This is going to be my 10th year.
Ooh.
You've been doing drag for 10 years.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm a lot older than you probably think I am.
I do, like, if you want to share it with our listeners how old you are, that's totally fine.
No, I'm 32, so.
Really? So you've been doing drag, you're 22 years old.
Well, I was 23, so at the end of this year, I was when I kind of started.
Oh, crazy.
Yep,
So crazy.
So this is what my future holds, okay.
Gotta bust your ass, girl. And not with dicks.
Oh, party.
Cheers.
Although, I mean, like, who hasn't gotten jobs that way? Never me, no.
Party. So I do have a question then about that. So you've been doing drag for about 10 years in this scene. And so so we're in quarantine. By the way, when this episode comes out, I don't know what quarantine will be like. Specifically when this episode releases. So right now, as we're filming, we're in quarantine. So I'm going to ask a couple questions about that as well. So were you a full-time dragger? Was that your main source of income before quarantine?
Yeah, so I make most of my money doing drag and all my drag gigs and etc. And then I like had a backup job at a mall that was originally like I was doing a favor for a friend over Christmas, and then I ended up just kind of working there just like as something to do during the day to busy myself. And it's nice. It was nice having like extra money that I because drag isn't always consistent, so I kind of got used to just having that $112 a week I was making was selling cheap crystal. I mean, classic Austrian crystal.
Yay.
But so I did that. So I've always kind of like, I mean, like I went to college and I graduated, and rather than like getting a real job, I went back to the only job I ever had, which was working in tanning salons and slinging tans to people. And
the truly only real profession for anybody.
Well, for the soulless,
yes.
It's for gay men with with somewhat of a soul, but who want to be tan and fabulous, probably have self-esteem issues, and then soulless girls who are more interested in their phone and being so tan that it's like I can't even imagine. Melanoma.
Melanoma.
I love it. I call them Oompa Loompa factories. Is really what I call tanning salons.
I mean, I used to be the queen of the spray tan, and now I just can't even think of like stepping in a booth without like gagging and having diarrhea at the same time.
Oh my goodness, I can't even imagine seeing you with a spray tan. That would be literally everything.
Oh, I mean,
the
you just
best
need to go
party.
back and look at old pictures of Val. She was orange. But I also used to, back when I was much thinner, I didn't wear tights and I had shaved bronze beautiful legs, and that was like one of my calling cards, was like I was the bare-legged queen. And yeah, these gams
That's a
were
party.
Everything. I love that so much. So when
should.
when you started as a queen, what's changed? Like, what was it like when you were doing this 10 years ago, different than what it is now?
It was 1,000% different. Like when I started doing drag, like I searched drag queens Portland on Google, and the Embers Angel Fire website came up. This was 2010, and it was like an old poster from like 2009, and like you couldn't see anything. Like there was no way. Like it was hard to like figure out how to break into the scene, having not like grown up here. And so really, I didn't really know what to do. So I did. So the first thing I did was I did Portland Drag Race at Red Cap, RIP. I don't know
Rest in peace.
you guys have heard of Red Cap.
I don't think it registers
really
as
cool.
Autumn as important, so she doesn't talk about it.
Well, Autumn wouldn't. So I mean, it's before her time. Red Cap was right down the street from Scandals. It's like where that's like that like food. It's like a bunch of little mini restaurants are, but basically it was 3 bars combined in one. There was Boxes, Fish Grotto, and Red Cap, and they were all connected by a big hallway.
Okay.
So you could bar hop and stay inside. So it was really cool. So the first thing I did, because it's the only thing I could find, there was a poster for it, was for newbies. It's Portland Drag Race, hosted by Poison Waters at the Red Cap. And so that was the first thing I did. So it was kind of hard breaking into it way back then, where now there's so many more opportunities. Maybe because of myself, I like to be a person that gives those opportunities. Whereas, you know, back in the day, it was very hard. Like I said, like at the Embers, I went there, and like it was back in the day, you were a new queen. Like there was barely anywhere to perform. So a new person coming on the scene, they were extra cautious about. Cece's was so intimidating. Like they only have the one drag show. Darcelle's, it's like, how would you even think of like getting to work there? So Red Cap was the only other place that kind of had drag and it was the only place that had something that was accessible to new queens.
That's really cool. I mean, I don't think they really have one venue like that anymore. There's a couple options, and you even create a space like that called Drag Danger Zone, right? Tell us a little bit more about that. How did that come to be? What was like the ideas behind that?
So the Drag Danger Zone kind of like came together like as an idea. Like I got asked to do it. I actually was covering for the original host who canceled, and then I've been there ever since. But basically, I love the concept and the idea of it. So Ms. Aurora, and she's the DJ and producer, and then Marla Darling, who did Dragathon, another competition with me. They came up with the concept and pitched it to Crush, and then once it came on with me, I took, full force, was, happy to be kind of a third head there and, help recruit people, get, new queens and give that opportunity. I absolutely loved the idea of it. I mean, there's so many queens that have come through there that are successful now and have like big shows, that their first step on the stage was at the Drag Danger Zone.
Are there any people that specifically come to mind that have like really succeeded from that show?
Mars has a show right now that she has on tonight.
Really?
She started there. Loretta Goodlordchild, her very first drag performance was on the Drag Danger Zone. Suicidal's first drag performance was on at the Drag Danger Zone.
I'd love to see that.
Who else? Oh, she was so nervous. It was so cute. Who else? There's been quite a few there, but a lot of people also came through, like when I was doing Dragathon and like Comedies of Drag / Lip Laugh Flare, all these other competitions.
Right.
So like, Claire Apparently started off in those, doing those shows,
That's awesome. I mean, how many competitions or shows have you really like been involved with? Because you've named so many within just the last few sentences of our conversation. Like how many, just I have an estimate, can you even think of that you've been involved with?
Probably 5 or 6. Maybe 7. Maybe 7. Okay. Let's see. Dragathon, Portland Drag Race, I competed in Elite Queen, the comedy competition that I produced. I did Miss Sweethearts. I competed for Miss Gay Pride. I did Miss CC Slaughters.
Wow, the list
So
just keeps going on.
Did you win Miss Gay Pride, or which one did you say?
Miss Gay Pride was the first competition, like pageant I did. It was way back in the day. I ran against a queen named Allie McQueen, who we both were at Hamburger Mary's at the time. She was very popular. I was not. And then another Autumn, but Autumn Cities was her name, and we did it, and I lost, and it was a learning experience. I, of course, being a self-involved Virgo, thought that my package was everything, and that I should have definitely slayed the day. But I mean, like, I had busted makeup, and I didn't know what I was doing, and barely practiced, and who knows what I got, probably third. So Miss Gay Pride, that was my first experience with the court, and it was my last experience with the court.
Oh,
amen. That's a common theme we hear.
That's a common theme we're hearing these days. Yes, it is. So my question is, what titles have you held? There we go.
So I won the first Dragathon, which was a big competition that ran for 6 years here.
Oh wow.
I did I won Miss Sweetheart the same week. Actually, I won Dragathon, so I had 2 crowns at the same time for a whole year. It was fucking awesome. And I won Elite Queen, which is now Supreme Queen or whatever. And then
let's not talk about Queen now. I thought that's what the color theme was.
Who knows? We'll see after the pandemic. I'm just gonna do what I'm told. I'm just gonna go there. As long as my check clears, like, I'm good.
Man.
I did my work, and it was good work. And then Miss CC Slaughters is my favorite. There's a little backstory to it. So it'd been running for a couple of years. It was an old title that had been revived by Shaniqua Bolt, and it ran a couple of years. And then I was like, you know what? And she was like, you need to run for it. You need to run for it. And so I was advertising, and a dear friend of mine who I had competed with all the way back at Portland Drag Race messaged me and said, "Oh, I see you're competing. I'd love to come see you compete. It would be so wonderful to see you. Like, give me the details." And they gave her the details, and I showed up the night of the pageant, and she was also running.
Oh.
And she won.
Oh
no.
But she was unable to fulfill her duties, so I got the crown, and then CC's ended the title. So I'm now forever Miss CC Slaughters.
Well, I wonder why they ended the title.
They did Elite Queen.
Oh, that would make more sense then.
Yep.
Which then you won, though.
I deserved it. Now, the funny story is that it's just kind of funny, but just like kind of how it is. And they had like the saddest coronation. Like, there was like nobody there. We did it on a Sunday night at the Diva show. And like, it was just like a weird weekend, like in the summer, where like everyone was probably out because the weather was hot or hungover. And so it was like me and like my aunt and her 2 coworkers just like drunk and screaming for me.
The aunt and coworker story.
I know, it was amazing. The crown was missing stones, and they didn't even care. It was just like, it's one of my absolute favorite moments of my entire career. It's just like, it's Miss CC Slaughters.
I mean, that just sounds so on brand for you. I love that entire story.
Does sound on brand for you.
It does. It really does. I mean, the endings to my stories are usually pretty sad but hilarious.
Well, it's interesting to me because you have, when it comes to this competition world, like, since, I met you, so I met you a year ago. By the way, listeners, as the recording and filming this, like, it's going to be my 1 year in Portland as of a week of recording this. So that's kind of crazy. But I met Valerie roughly about a year ago, and I never pictured this tall, high heels I could never wear, very exaggerated drag makeup artist who apparently just holds all of these titles. Because I met Valerie when I believe she was the winner of Elite Queen. Because that was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So because the second one was supposed to be, exactly. So yeah, I was like, and so I was like, oh gosh, I was like, so she's just a triple threat. I was like, come on, because I didn't know it was a competition, like a weekly competition title, and so I was just like, wow. So tell me, let's go into that a little bit since we're talking about competitions anyway. So what were the challenges like for Elite Queen, and like how did you come out on top?
Well, I would definitely say that like Elite Queen, like compared to like having competed in Dragathon so long ago, like Elite Queen was so much harder, even though I'd been doing drag for so much longer, because I felt like I had so much more to like uphold. Like I was the old bitch in the group, like there was no lie. Like I was the person. Well, I was the Elite Queen, obviously. But so each competition, like I felt like I had to like nitpick every single little detail. It had to be extra, extra, extra. My performances had to be brand new and something that I hadn't done 9,000 times that I was used to, which is very uncomfortable for me. Like, you know, I like doing, you know, something that I'm prepared for. So it was very difficult. And, you know, when they said you're going to Jello wrestle, which I did not agree to because Miss Inanna messaged me a bajillion times trying to get me to do the fucking show. And then that was never included. And then like 3 weeks in, they're like, oh, we're doing Jello wrestling this week. And I was just like, if I don't get one of those tiny little bitches that I can throw around, I'm gonna be so mad because I am weak. I am, and I don't know did you guys see that week?
No, I never saw any of the Elite Queen.
Because everyone who took a photo of me Jello wrestling probably knew, like, if I post this, I'm dead. Like, because I wrestled Ramona, and Ramona is, or now, who is, Kiara, she now goes to Kiara. So then she was Ramona, and Kiara was so strong. And I was like, shit. And like, so like I was like, okay, well I can be wiry. And I also grew up watching professional wrestling. And I was like, so clearly Kiara is the hero and I am the villain. And people can cheer for her to fucking, because, you know, half the people in that room were like, fuck, I want to jump on that fucking bitch and push her face in Jello. And we went last. So what started off as beautiful red and green Jello cubes was now brown soup that was more like in between like lube and corn syrup, where you felt like it would glide, but then it would grip to everything. And I like the minute, and literally, and I was also super mad because I again was really tricksy. And I went in for the quick pin and stunned Ramona, or Kiara, and she didn't know what to do. And all of a sudden, Olivia's like laughing and not counting. And I was like,
that sounds like a Bolivia thing.
The look on her face was like, oh no. And like Bolivia would never be scared of me, but I think she knew. She was like, oh shit. Like, and so the rest of it, which went on for way too long, was me like a struggling buffalo being strangled by the lioness, who clearly deserved to win, but I refused to be like, I'm not going down. I was like, I'm not flipping. There's buffalo. No way. Like it was just an image from Discovery, because I was bigger than her and not stronger than her. Like I threw my wig and like it was just visible. And Cece's gave me a very nice present afterwards as a sorry.
Isn't that nice of them?
That's so sweet. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So did you win that week, or did the competition work where they were winning on weeks? Or
so I won a couple weeks. I won the first week. I was the surprise. Like everyone thought I was there just as a random person, and I showed up as the 10th contestant. And I won the first week because, of course, they were all literally shamboozled, because every single one was just like, oh shit, which I mean I would have too. So I won a couple weeks, but you know, Devlin won a few weeks, Sue won a few weeks, Kiara won a few weeks, so it was a good competition. It was very even. I mean, people said it wasn't fair, and it's like, no, I was just really that good.
Oh, okay.
And what keeps bringing you back to competitions? Like, what keeps drawing you to do them? Because you've done a lot of them now over the decade, and there's got to be something that draws you back.
I just really like it. I think a lot of people are afraid of them, and I like kind of just being kind of the person that does like the scary things that normal people would be scared of. Because I mean, like Elite Queen, you know, people were expecting, you know, queens like that I started with, you know, from back in the day, like to be doing it, and we got a lot of new queens, which is fine, but like Cece's, when I was told about it, was looking for more of like established queens, because they wanted to have like more of like, because new queens like can either be like really good, or like there's always kind of like a different skill level essentially.
You can look at me, it's fine.
I wasn't looking at you. But I'm saying like when they were, so I felt kind of bad when I did it because I didn't really know who was doing it. And so like, they wanted a certain skill level, and it was all different skill levels, but everyone did really good. So I just...
That's cool.
I love to hear
That's
that
really
sort of
cool.
thing, especially a good blend of the older, more established people and the newer ones really coming together, because you can see, especially with the more popularization in mainstream of drag, that there is almost like different styles even emerging. So you get the new queens who are really doing such a different style of drag than people who've been established and doing it for a long time, and seeing how they interpret things differently is really, really cool to watch.
Yeah, that's what I love about like now having my competitions, is like I love to have that variety, like I crave for it. And that's what I like about producing those different things, like, with the comedy. Back when I did Dragathon, like I always tried to make sure I got people from different, areas, like, getting Bougie, Cherry, and Brittany on their first opportunities to kind of come to Portland regularly and Dragathon. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And asking them to come all the way out. And Lady Bits, we gave her, at the Drag Danger Zone, like that. And now she does, produces her own shows.
So they're your fault, is what you're saying.
Quite a few.
Yeah.
Yep. They're well. I mean, I give them the boost, and they go wherever. I mean, it's not my problem. Like,
I love that plausible deniability there. I was like, you created 3 monsters who I hate. No, I'm just kidding. But no, that's cool, because all of them are really talented in their own ways, and so that's kind of cool that they got their platforms and their starts that way.
Yeah, it's just like they're all my children. So like the older I get, I have become motherly over like 30 drag queens. So I kind of think of myself as like Portland's Miss Hannigan. Like I have all these drag queens that have like come through my orphanage, and I've shown them the ways, and hike their skirts up and stuff their chests and throw some glitter on their faces or whatever, and give them that opportunity to express their art, and now they're all doing different things. And
Right.
Yeah,
and that's really cool that you really do that, because I'm rather new in this. I'm just coming up on my first year being in it, on June 29th, so within the next month. And you're one of the thank you. You're one of the people that's been established, that has really gone out of your way to really be welcoming to people, is something I noticed. Was there someone in your past that gave you that opportunity? Because I do know that you have a very predominant drag mother that you also have a good relationship with. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, obviously she would be the one who gave me that opportunity. Because like I said, it was just like striking out. I kind of could see why it was intimidating. Not that I had the best makeup, but I used to, be emaciated and, have, long ass legs. And back when Valerie was just a blonde, and before she had the black and white hair, I could see a lot of queens being intimidated. There's certain crowds that, are, the certain crowds that are unwelcoming in this town. They favored, one of the certain bars. So, I really didn't have the opportunities. But once I went to Hamburger Mary's, like, Honeybee gave me my opportunity. Like, I don't remember where she saw me. I think it might have been at Miss Gay Pride, and she told me to come to see her at the Honeybee Heart Show, and I could do a guest appearance there. And halfway through my first night there, she was like, "Will you come back every single Friday and Saturday night for our show?" And I was like, "Of course." And it was like a little family. It was me, Honeybee, and my drag sister Violet, and we kind of were like, Lady Tremaine and the Stepsisters putting on a cabaret show. We did lots of Disney shit, and we did routines, lots of Broadway and stuff like that. And we had a male performer that performed with us regularly, and some other queens from the other shows would come in, like Kilala would come in from Allie's World, and occasionally we'd get like Isaiah in from what was his show called? Diva Variety. Yeah, for Alexis Campbell Starr was the MC, and like the first time I heard Alexis on the mic, like introducing, it was just like I just fell in love with her instantly, and like kind of stalked her and made her become my friend.
That's crazy.
Sounds like what I did with Coco and Donna.
Well, and
Exactly. You gotta like pick those people out and create your network. And so like, when I
Right.
started out, like, Alexis wasn't even, she may have just gotten onto Darcelle's when I started out. So like she had just started there. Like I knew her and Courtney auditioned for the same spot. And then I believe Alexis got it and they gave it to Courtney later. I might be mixing up, but they brought Courtney on anyways. I might be getting that mixed up. So yeah, it was just really that was kind of like my little like family or whatever. Like, whatever happened, the business itself was ran. People have their own opinions about it, and I'm not going to get into that. But the actual entertainment was so fun, so good. I mean, like me and my drag sister Violet and Baby Moore, aka Baby Cities, who was 16 at the time, ran the very first Portland drag brunch called the Babes Who Brunch, which is a name, I believe that's Angelica Deville's name, but that was our brunch, was way back in the day, Hamburger Mary's, doing Babes Who Brunch Sunday mornings, and it was under all ages, and so we'd have queens from the Escape come. I mean, Baby would come from Steam the next night, the next morning over.
Wow.
I
Well, that's
lived
a good
for
time.
it. Yeah, it was a good time. So you can find those old posters of the three of us from way back in the day, in our Ross dresses and our shake and go wigs, and dancing and shaking our fannies around
That's
hamburgers
so cool.
and omelets. So
Gosh, I really wish Hamburger Mary's, there was another Hamburger Mary's here. Number one, I like the food at Hamburger Mary's.
it was good.
Like, and obviously not just because I was on Camp Wanakiki and like I feel like they own me now, but but no, I do. I like a Hamburger Mary's, and I like a Hamburger Mary's environment when it comes to drag, like because I always feel like Hamburger Mary's like really put emphasis on like the drag itself and like respecting entertainers and trying to provide good dressing rooms and like really trying to make drag artists like feel valued, like they're part of a family, they're part of a staff, they're coworkers and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
it's cool that you got to perform there
yeah,
before
and
they closed.
yeah, before they closed. And I loved it because it kind of like my style of drag is I kind of always have wanted to be like Cruella or a Disney villain at Disneyland. And so like getting to interact with like younger people and stuff like that was really fun. And like I got to live my life and kind of be this like character and interact with people and kind of give them that like sass and stuff like that. And it was just really fun kind of like having that interaction. And so I've always done that. So if whenever I go to a show or to a new venue, I'll always try to make sure that I try to go up to tables even if they don't want to talk to me. It's like I'm a 6'7" drag queen in heels. Like you're gonna look at me and you're gonna listen to what I have to say, and you're probably gonna laugh. And if you don't laugh, you're not gonna like it. And I take that all back from my training ground back in Hamburger Mary's. I learned my lessons, like not to get drunk and squirt a woman with ketchup, and not to think that like I was a spider and think that I could like climb on bars and like, oh, that drag queen definitely smacked her head, but you perform through that concussion, you reshift your wig, and you just keep on dancing.
Yeah.
Amen
to that. So we had a couple more questions about competitions.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know, and actually it's one of Touche's questions here. How do you feel like a person should present themselves in a competition? And actually, let's be specific too. Let's talk about dressing rooms. Because obviously there's a place that the contestants have to be. It's usually a dressing room. They're usually together. I haven't seen a venue big enough to where they're separated. So let's talk about like dressing room behavior at a competition. And go.
Okay, dressing room behavior at the competition. One, you just got to have respect for everybody. You can't be, I'm the messiest drag queen in the world, as you guys have probably seen me, like when I arrive and just like throw my suitcase out. Don't be like that. I just think that like just kind of like having common respect for everybody, and don't be that person, like even if you're having it, because I mean like I've gotten in many a cat fight in my day in dressing rooms, especially during competitions, and it's all just like pent up bullshit. And I just think that people just need to be adults and follow the rules, give everyone the respect that you'd want to receive, and everyone should be fine. And respect the bar itself and like the space, like assess the situation. Don't think you own the place. Even if you're there 4 weeks in, people get more comfortable, and that respect kind of starts to slide. And I think it's just like kind of always having that personal mentality of like, I'm here as a guest. This is not my space. I'm going to treat it with, respect. I'm not going to steal things. I'm not going to do all that bullshit.
Yeah, I think that's really important to think about from the competition, but also just in general, because this podcast is really geared towards new people entering the world of queer nightlife. And that's something really helpful to know is you need to keep it professional, because there are people who do this professionally. This is their main source of income. So they don't want you in here with your, bullshit because you're just treating this like a hobby or you're just having fun hanging out with your friends. So it's something I think really people should pay attention to.
Yeah, and I think that like it's something like the more you see it, the more you'll get it. Like, yes, there's going to be like catty bitchiness or like sassiness and reading. Like that's normal. That's what we want, and you need to. And that's like what makes the back dressing room fun. But it's like when it starts to get below that fun level, where like things are starting to get petty, things are starting to get like really like awkward, where you could like cut the tension with a knife when it's just like do I have to fart to make something like fucking change? Like, I don't know what's to happen. So I just think that like, just kind of just like keep yourself in check. And it's hard with like drinking, etc. and all that stuff. So I think it's just like the more you do it, the more you get it.
Yeah. That makes sense. That does make sense. And don't spread out. All of the new people listening to this, do not spread out in the dressing room. I just need to throw that out there. I'm going to reiterate that point like 4 more times. Drives me up a wall.
I feel personally attacked right now.
Touche does that. She gets to the gig way too early because she paints at the venue. By the way, you want to paint at a venue, that's fine, but it's never going to look as great as when you paint at home. Anyway, and then you get there and you spread out all your makeup, you spread out all your bags, you spread out all your wigs, and it's like, okay, I'm good to go. And then everybody gets there like, I guess there's just not room for my stuff.
When that happens and it starts flooding and like, people are hanging up their like 2 like Forever 21 outfits, and it's like
wow, I had no idea that we switched over to the Gay Portland Tea podcast. My goodness, just come for me.
I know, that was probably shady. I'm sure they're beautiful, but it's also like those can stay in the plastic bag you brought them in, girl. Like, don't be spreading out for no reason, or like,
No, most definitely. That's actually one of the
everyone's there.
Yeah, and that's one of the lessons that I learned rather quickly, and I still do it sometimes because I'm not a perfect person, but it's something that we talked about in one of our episodes for new people, like their first time at a show. Don't ever take up the entire space. Just take up what you need, and even maybe less than, because you're like kind of a guest in there right now. You're not like set in stone, someone who's supposed to be there at the moment.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about, I think it's probably in here, I just wasn't reading, but so me and Touche participated in Valerie's petition known as Last Laugh. The competition actually had to get cut short, and I'm going to make this side note here that I'm super sad it got cut short, because those last 3 weeks were the things I was most strong at. And because seriously, roast, those are my things. Parody songs are also my things, and stand-up is also one of my things. And guess where we stopped at? All 3 of those.
Hey, I plan on it coming back. If everyone's willing to come back, we're going to pick up right where we left off. We'll probably have to have a catch-up episode week, maybe throw in a couple extra weeks for fun or something like that. But
yeah,
I still want us all to come back, because every year it just gets better and better. Even though the name it is bad, but everything else gets better.
I think it's perfect. Name has changed every time.
But I kind of want to keep the Last Laugh. I will have to give credit to Patrick Buckmaster. He did come up with it, but it is genius.
Yeah, I like that name, and it was a really great competition, and I just needed to get that vent off there. But yeah, me and Touche participated, and so this is kind of a weird concept here, but I want to talk about things that have already happened, obviously, because it's not like ruining anything. And then we don't actually know our scores or whatever at this point, especially if it comes back. But like, so the first week, I think that Touche was in the top first week. That's right. With your, because Touche, tell our listeners what you did for your concept.
Yes, so the audition week, I had a public demonstration on how to stuff and baste a turkey in a rendition of Martha Stewart. And based on audience reception, I believe the number went over quite well with my arm up the turkey's ass.
I loved it.
She also had pornographic sounds while she was stuffing the turkey. It was really involved.
It was a fun number. I mean, it was such a... It was such a strong night. I mean, everyone really brought like their best that they could do, and it was so great to see it. It really
It
was.
was. It was so interesting.
Mhm.
So, oh, I did have a question. Maybe this is some behind the scenes tea of the competition here. But you at the last second, like you're like, these are the people who made it. And then like out of nowhere, it was like 5 minutes later, it was like, wait a second. And then like you pulled like, I think it was Beatrix, I think, into the competition
Oh yeah.
because you told us it was going to be like 10 people and then suddenly it was 11, or it was like 9 people and then it was 10. I don't remember. But was that like an accident? Like you really miscalculated, or what was the story behind that?
Yeah, so the thing was is it was a combination of two things. Is one, Beatrix had joined that day, and first I had already had everyone else drilled in my mind, and so like my memory had not put her in the list yet, like as a like mental staple. But also there was a tie for the two scores, like kind of like differentiated between ninth and 10th place, were
Mm-hmm.
the exact same. And so at that point, we were just like, okay, well, Cece said maybe, up to 10 people, even though we had really agreed on like 9 based on like the competitions and the evenness and how it would make sense more.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, we were like, okay, well, we'll just do the 10. And like, so we all kind of voted, me, Sveti, Loretta, and Wolfgang. And so we were just like, okay, we'll go with the 10. And so that was why we did 10. And then it was my fault. I forgot to call Beatrix, because with all of that and the mixture and then her just signing up that day, it was not the best for her to not be announced. But CC's came up and we're like, Beatrix is in the show, right? We want to make sure that, like, because they're involved with everything, so they know everything that's going on. And so they were like, why didn't you stay here? And I was like, I'm sorry.
It was a great moment though, just seeing her face crack as she came on that stage. She was just like, all right, I guess I'm here now.
Yeah,
It was
like,
so great.
yeah, so it was so
Mhm.
that was the tea behind that was, it was
Right.
me not remembering her name at that moment, and a tie in scores.
That's fun. No, that's really fun. So my favorite. So I wanted to talk about, because Chuchecha got to say hers, and then we did some behind the scenes tea. One of my favorite moments from the show, because I drink a lot and so I forget things.
Mhm.
Was so one of the mini challenges things that we did at the start was Valerie like put us all in this like weird order, which probably there was a method to the madness. I don't ever care. I was just like, okay, I'm fifth, sixth, I'm last, I'm first, whatever. Um, and so what happened was the competition was like to do a hosting thing, like you're gonna host on the person after you, and I got the beautiful opportunity of going last, because whoever was last got to host on Valerie, as like they were the next person and whatever. And I remember like it was like person number like 6, and like I was like trying to prepare some jokes and like be funny, and I was like, whoa, because I've been show producing for a while at this point. And I was like, and like, because you get wrapped up in your mind with competitions. And so I remember at the last second, I was like standing by the microphone, and I actually went back and I actually took Rogue Safari's drink. And I said, here, I need this. And she's like, what? I was like, oh, you'll see. And then so like I walk out on stage acting like I don't care about anybody, sipping my drink as you do. And then just made fun of the audience and just like did the whole thing. And like, and I won that mini challenge. And I was just thinking to myself so much that like we really do become different people in competitions. Like you're trying so hard to do what you think the judges want you to do, and that you lose yourself, and you can't, like, you end up like not giving them anything because you lose yourself. They're like, well, we'd like to see a little bit of you. Like this was
Yeah.
like, this is what Wolfgang is going to love this week. And it didn't cater to anybody else but Wolfgang. And then you don't win. And you're like, what happened?
Yes, exactly. I know yes, remember that in Elite Queen. It was just like, I was like, why am I overthinking this? Like they're like, oh, we want to see you dance, we want to see you move. And like, to me, it was like, oh, okay, I have to do one of these young contemporary numbers, which instead I did my favorite Nicki Minaj song, which is Whip It.
Yes.
And they didn't, they were just like, what are you doing? When I was like, okay, I probably should have done something ridiculous, like the Macarena, or like that, like shown them, like made fun of them wanting to see me dance and being like, okay, well, this is the kind of dance you're getting, rather than like getting wrapped up and being like, oh my God, I have to learn a dance routine. I need to practice. I need to do this. And it was just like, that's absolutely not you.
Right. And I think that's something that, everyone needs to remember in competitions, because Last Laugh was like my first real competition I have done since doing drag, because I'm still really new to this. So seeing the difference in what the judges want versus what you have and blending those together can really mess with someone's head. So it's interesting that you point out that you want to bring yourself to the challenges rather than craft the challenges for what the judges want to see. So that's, I think, something really important. That a lot of people who are going into these competitions need to remember, that this is still highlighting your art and what you're bringing to the table, but through the lens of what other people want to see.
Yeah, definitely. And I did want to tag onto that, because we do have a lot of new listeners. It's a show for, cooking up a queen, how to, become a new drag artist and things like that. And a lot of you will probably be thinking to yourself that you want to be on Drag Race and things like that. What I always find so stupid, about Drag Race in general, is when you get people backstage who, I mean, in their confessional, they're being like, I just wanted to try this new thing. I've never done it before. Why would you go on national TV and do something you don't know how to do at all? Like, whenever they do the All-Stars episodes, they're like, well, I wanted to show the fans something new. Like, they know I can dance, so I want to, like, try to spit fire or sing a song. And I've never sang before in drag ever. And it's like, why would you do that to yourself? Like, you are on a national competition show. These people don't know you. Guess what? Your fans, they also don't know you. Like, so do what you love. Like, it's just like Brooklyn Heights, when she knew she was in the bottom, she did the thing where she was, had her afro thing and her like
The reveal
or whatever. That reveal, I've been seeing it for 7 years.
I mean, the reaction on Rue and Michelle alone, because like they'd never seen that, like a wig, full outfit. I mean, it was shocking, and you gotta pull out all those tricks.
You do. And like, so my thing is, for competition, do what you do best. It's nice to try to do something nice and new and whatever, but like sometimes you need to rest on the things you're confident in doing, and then maybe just changing it up a little bit from there. So my next question, unless Tisha, you had one for Valerie.
Oh, no, not at all. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Because I have so many questions.
Oh my goodness. Ask all your questions.
Oh my God, it's so many questions.
She's a smart queen. She's a nerdy queen. She's a research queen.
I love it.
So you've already answered my question about Last Laugh, like might possibly come back, which is great. But do you consider yourself to actually be a comedy queen, or do you feel like that you got pushed into that market and you're trying to claw your way out? Or because you do a lot of theatrical numbers too. So tell me a little bit about that. It's like, do you consider yourself to be a campy comedy queen?
I mean, I think that I have versatility, but I mean, like my main focus, like I always want to make people laugh. Like my performances, like are usually like I'm gonna have like, even if I'm gonna do memories from cats, I'm gonna do it as Grumpy Cat. Like, I'm gonna have something that's like a little bit like, my brand, like, everything's shoved through a Valerie filter. So like I just kind of, rather than like having like, being pushed into one category, comedy, campy, whatever, like I just want kind of my style to be Valerie, and like have it's like my brand of drag. Most campy queens like have big elaborate outfits, and it's like I wear slutty cocktail dresses and look like the cool mom at the Pizza Hut party. Like that's what I want to be.
So many slutty cocktail dresses. They're too many to count.
Yeah, so like well, I mean, they only last about one wear, so that's why there's a lot. So I just like kind of like, I want it to be like my brand of things, where people say like, oh, well, that's so Valerie. Like I have people like, they'll hear a song, they're like, oh my God, this song is a Valerie song, or, that dress is a Valerie dress. Like, so I just kind of want it to be like my own niche. So like, it's the things that I enjoy, like the campy makeup, but I enjoy, kind of like doing new age songs, but I also love doing show tunes and, doing the whole showgirl look occasionally. And, sometimes I want to dress up and, look like a pageant queen and make them all eat their words. And I just like kind of having, I feel like people who love having one, being in a niche is fine, but for me, I like having a lot of different hats that I wear, which is why I probably am one of the only queens who's had shows in almost every single bar in town. I mean, name it from local lounge to scandals to Stag.
You had a show at Stag?
I hosted brunch there,
Oh.
and I actually hosted before it was Stag. There was another bar there called the Royale, and I hosted shows there.
Wow.
I hosted, yeah, and so I mean, like I've performed everywhere. I mean, to the point like I've the longest running performer at the Velvet Ropes for the very first trans friendly show in town.
Yes.
Called
Wow.
It was way back in the day called Transtasia. And also the first pansexual show, I'm still in there, called Pandemonium, hosted by Nikki Lev, my sister. So, you know, I've performed everywhere, whether it's like, you know, a corporate event, you know, at Nike doing bingo for a bunch of ladies in an office, to I host a summer camp workshop for an art school every summer and teach kids, you know, how to channel their inner queen. And, you know, they learn about divine, and, you know, they get ready and they, like little kids, put on drag performances, you know, it's really fun. And
Wow. That's
I've been
kind of,
everywhere.
well, I have a question for you, and actually, just it's kind of a side note, because I've noticed this here, and because remember, I've only lived here a year now. I've
Mhm.
performed quite a few places. I've thrown a bunch of shows. I've done my karaoke's and things like that. I've done a lot in my year.
Would you say you're an up in everybody's business, Coco, like everyone else says?
Yes, exactly. So
Tenacious.
my thing that I'm super confused by is, why do none of these venues stay open for very long? Like,
I mean,
I've seen it.
I
Like,
used to think it was. I honestly used to think it was me, because I went through a period of like every bar that I worked at closed, starting with Hamburger Mary's, and then the Royale, and then the Sandy Hut closed for a while. So I mean, like I had kind of a bad reputation in my mind about that, but I just really don't know why these places like don't last very long. It's just kind of like there's like a few staple bars that people always go to, but even they're struggling half the time. I honestly, it baffles me too, because people seem like they want and crave, you know, places to go and entertainment. And then once they have all these options, they're just like, okay.
yeah, I've noticed that. Because like since I've moved here, I've seen 3 venues closed in a year. Gosh, that seems really a lot for drag specific venues. And that's heartbreaking to a degree. I mean, like, because it's really hard for people who want to try to do drag full time, because I try to do drag full time here, and that was also an issue, like worried that the bar wasn't going to be open for longer than the next 7 months.
Yeah, no, trust me. And I mean, it's since Ember's closed and everything after that, it feels like drag bars are few and far between, and bars that didn't have as much drag, like Cece's, for example, only had the Diva show, and then they tried to be literally the only other drag presence they had was Bolivia hosting at night, and then they had just like their actual drag show was that one night. Rarely would you see a random show. Like occasionally someone from the Rose Court would have an in and get like a drag show there, or Madam would have, you know, Madam did her roast and they had that. But like rarely would there would be a show drag centric there, you know, not on a Sunday night.
Right.
So I think that these places are opening up. I mean, Scandals, when they had their stage, was doing a lot of drag, and you know, once they got rid of it, people stopped going, which is weird because Scandals is so like a hangout bar, but like yet they craved drag. But then once they had it, they were like, we can't hear our friends. Or
yeah, well, actually, it's funny. I've heard people doing drag related things at Scandal, but I always thought it was a little funky, because it just seems like a hangout space.
Yeah, they used to have like a weird stage thing. They did 3 years of dragathon there. And I mean, the if you want to hear about bad dressing spaces, that was at one tiny private bathroom. That is what they used to get ready in. The worst though is the Sandy Hut, where we got ready downstairs in the kitchen with a sexual predator who was the cook. It was pretty wild.
Oh wow.
My goodness.
Yeah.
So what makes that different from any other dressing room in Portland?
The kitchen's usually upstairs. The kitchen's separate now. The kitchen's separate.
Sorry, I had to throw that one in there. I saw a moment.
honey. Yeah, so let me because I know that we've trapped Valerie in this conversation where she feels like it probably never will end.
Right.
I like literally saw, because she's like, because you guys can't see this, but we're doing this on Zoom. It's how we're recording this, and like the sun went down behind her.
I've been playing. My dog is restless. I've been wrestling her for a while too.
So,
I'm totally fine.
Let's
Talk
wrap
away.
up with our last two questions about competitions, because obviously there was a reason that we did this.
Yeah.
I told Jay to talk about myself more, go off on tangents.
Well, hey, at least it's not me talking about myself the whole time this time, so it's nice to have a little bit of a change.
It's true.
Right.
Yes. So
go ahead.
something I do want to ask, because longevity, we talked about it in venues. There isn't a lot of it. We also see at least from what we've learned from the people we know here, that entertainers do come and go a lot in Portland, but you seem to be like this island of solitude almost, where you just exist here constantly. What do you think is the main attribute to that, where you've been able to just do this for so long and not like get washed away?
I think that it's that's a good question. I think that it's just like kind of like, my interaction with the people in community. Like, I always try to make sure to give people a Valerie moment, come up, give them that, as if Cruella just stumbled into their house and, smacked him around and put a cigarette out in a cupcake and walks away, but I want, so I think that helps. And I strive to give, always really be committed to my performances. I do drink a lot, I understand that, but like even above that, like I think that it's really just like, the entertainment that I provide, because I think people can see how passionate I am about like the stuff that I'm doing, that like I actually love doing this. Like I love making people laugh and giving them that moment that distracts them, if they're having a shitty day and, this crazy Cruella looking drag queen comes up to them and, completely just like changes the way that they're thinking that day, like, because it, distracts them from that. Like, that's something that like, I think that not many queens do in town. They kind of like stand off and they want to save all their energy for the stage, which is great. I love that. And then they channel the best performance. Not everyone can do that. But I think for me is like kind of like I am one of those entertainers that is on the other side too. So I kind of like interact with everybody as a whole. And then when they since I've interacted with everybody, they're excited to see me perform, because they were like, oh, that's that drag queen. She was so funny. And they get excited to see me. And then I can then shine, and they get to see my passion for my art in that way too. And then it kind of like creates that cycle of them wanting to see more, interact with me more, come to my shows, that type of thing.
Right.
So that's kind of why I think like I have that staying power.
Yeah, and it sounds like you really go out of your way to create an environment where everyone feels welcome to have a good time, because you're right, you do see it a lot, especially at bars where there's a regular show, every week or once a month, where the entertainers, even if they're out and about, they do kind of stay off to themselves. They don't really engage with the patrons to really make them feel like that they're here for the experience. And I think that's something that's kind of almost a lost art form in the modernized world of drag. And it's really cool that you still do that and teach it to other people.
Thank you. Yeah, I think a lot of people are like that digital, they're so used to getting attention and interactions on social media. I mean, I don't even remember the last time I took a selfie. So like I'm the worst drag queen in that area. So I think that a lot of times people are a little bit more shy, especially newer drag queens. They're shy. They don't know what to say or what to do. So it just takes practice, like have a conversation with someone. They're there to see you perform. Like, what's it going to hurt except for maybe give you a few more dollars when they tip you, because they feel comfortable giving you their money, their hard-earned money, when they actually have a connection with someone, rather than being like, oh, she death dropped, it's time to give her $1. Like,
right.
Like, rather than like, you go up there and do a song that you care about that no one's heard, but they're like, oh, wow, like that girl's so cool. I love this song now. Like, and then they tip you as well. So.
Right.
That is really awesome.
That is super awesome. I found that, like, because I know people out there, especially for our new fans, our new listeners will probably wonder why it's important, like, because stunts are great and all that other good stuff, but that last part that Valerie said was really important and impactful. Like, sometimes you make your money from what you do before the show even starts, like walking around to tables and communicating with people and making them feel comfortable. Like, one of the things about this online universe that we have is some people are watching because they've never been able to go to a drag show because they have really bad social anxiety. And some people can get there after a couple of cocktails, but before the show starts, when they have their first cocktail, it's nice when a drag queen comes over and they're friendly, funny, and, be your character or whatever, but welcome someone to the experience of you.
Yeah, exactly. You're kind of almost breaking the fourth wall and stepping outside and giving them that experience that maybe, where they were probably too intimidated. I get so many people oh my gosh, thank you so much. Can I have a picture? And it's no, goodbye. But then you actually get, what I mean? But, giving them that little extra,
Exactly. Because
people like you,
yeah, people don't come to a local drag show to just watch someone do something on stage. They could do that with any of the national tours they have, or even go to theater to see it. They really come for that experience where you can have that intimacy with the entertainers. And it's something I want to see more people start bringing back in the productions, especially here in Portland, because it's kind of lackluster in that department, to be completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, makes sense. So I have a prying question, Miss Deville.
Mm-hmm.
So do you, and we can edit it out if you don't want to answer this question, but do you have a partner?
Yeah, I do. He was in the background right before this started. But yeah, I do.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, he's very well. There's a reason why he doesn't come out very often. When it's not his scene. But anytime he has come out, since people don't know him. We'll be standing by each other, and people will wedge. They'll be oh, excuse me, hey Valerie, and start talking to him, and completely push him out and stuff like that. And so he just kind of gets he's a Scorpio, so he's not the type to just stand there and hold my handbag.
Sure.
He'd rather drop me off and pick me up. And then the last straw was one time I was maybe drunk and I called him and asked him to come get me. And then these nice gentlemen I was talking to outside were kind enough to get me a cab. And as I'm getting in the cab, he of course arrived and he was okay, we'll come in my car. And then of course the gentleman tried to jump him and we're leave her alone, and tried to come to my rescue. And he didn't appreciate that.
I wonder why.
I was incoherent, and it's and they're is this your boyfriend? And I was are you guys my boyfriend? And then it's so there's a reason why he's aloof.
Aloof, and no one,
and he's all mine.
Oh.
That's really interesting.
I get that.
With that, because with drag queens, usually they come in three varieties: the ones who can't maintain a relationship, the ones who do and they're constantly involved with the entire process, the ones who are completely standoffish. So it's always interesting to see where everyone kind of falls within that spectrum. And I kind of pegged you for the one they'd be constantly involved with, but it's interesting to see that they're on the other end of that spectrum.
I think that, he's seen me perform, and, Valerie as a character is, a single mother of 3 awful drag children, and she is constantly looking for multiple husbands because wallets. So, it's kind of my character can sometimes maybe be a little off-putting to someone because she is not in a relationship. So, where some people carry their relationship into their character, like my character, Valerie, she's always going to be, a widow, and she's always going to be a man-eater. That's just kind of how I've created the character, and her all of a sudden being some sort of church mom, I'd probably internally combust.
Oh my gosh,
I do catch on fire as well when I go in churches, so you're not alone.
Oh, trust me, the only reason I was there was for funerals.
Good. Wow, that's good. That wit is good. I love
like
her
the
wit.
alcohol at the church personally. It tastes better, just like my soul.
Yummy.
Mm-hmm.
So as we get to the end of our video here, our podcast here. So what is something that you want the fans to know about Valerie Deville? It can be something that is something a lot of people don't know, or something that you think is exciting, or just something about your character. Because your character is very realized. And so obviously, I even said when we first started this podcast, that I had actually never seen Valerie out of drag. Was super confused who was on the video. So what's something you would want people to know about you?
I think that there's definitely a difference between the person that I am outside of this versus the Valerie. The humor, the sound of the voice is going to be the same. I can't change my cartoony voice. Unfortunately, I'm always going to sound I mean, I probably purposely started to sound like this and it just stuck this way. That's
great.
But I think that, art is your form of escapism, and becoming Valerie is my form of escapism, where, I can live this wonderful fantasy that I love and, express my art and all that stuff, but then still be, an actual nice person. Valerie would describe as like the sweetest, but, I think that a lot of people, once they get to know me, they actually really get to know that, I'm not like this. I think initially meeting people are intimidated by me, which is what I probably have put up on purpose with my character. But, once people get to know me, unfortunately, they find out that I am a nice person. They find out that I do care about people, and that, I've continued doing drag more so not just like because I love it, but I love helping other drag queens, find their voice and have a place to perform and get the opportunities that I never got, and that I had to work so hard for, that I feel like it shouldn't be that hard for, emerging drag performers to get to, the thought of performing weekly at CC Slaughter's 10 years ago was a dream that I would have. And, being a new drag performer, getting to that, I think is a great opportunity that I feel like is now my purpose, is to give these queens, places that they don't normally get to perform, or they haven't performed, a safe space, drag dangerous into the last laugh, or, with the future of whatever Supreme Queen ends up being, is giving people the opportunity to be seen, show their art in a variety of way. Seeing a queen one time perform is way different than seeing you get to know someone versus you can see one performance, be like, that's great, but that could be that queen's only performance that she does over and over and over again. And it's not, and you get tired of her, versus if you see someone every single week, you get to see their soul. They have to do something. They have to be creative. And that's what I love, is seeing, new people grow.
That's really awesome. Are there, because we are coming to the end here, are there any entertainers, either new entertainers or people who do something to help new entertainers you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely say, my girls at the Drag Danger Zone, Miss Aurora and Marla Darling, they do a wonderful job. They really find these people. When I say these names of people who went through the Drag Danger Zone, Loretta, Sue, Claire, they were found by Marla and Aurora, not me. I was just hosting the show, so they have found some really great stars. Another person is Ms. Anana and Bolivia and Honey, of course, my mom. They've all given people, those opportunities at CC's. Even though we don't have the best relationship now, Poison Waters, she really has given, she gave me a lot of great advice as a young queen. And really inspired me and gave me compliments, and getting compliments from her felt like butter, just gliding down your throat, like nothing better. So I mean, there's some of those great inspiring queens. Courtney Capri Dove, she was one of my faves. She was one that I intimidate people, but Courtney kind of intimidated me. But we have this connection, and every time I see her, we just have the best time, and I absolutely love her, and I love what she does. And so, there are people that I admire.
That's really awesome. And then we'll be sure to tag them for our after clip, so everyone can go find them on Instagram. But I think that's everything, Coco. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think I'm good. This has been a great opportunity to get to know the one and only Valerie Deville.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, seriously, Portland's premier roaster queen. We actually didn't talk about that, but Valerie does get invited as the premier. If you're gonna have a roast, Valerie's gonna be there because she's awful.
I am the roast ringer for sure. If you're gonna have a roast, you should have me there, so people at least can have that. I will say, Coco, you are your talents, and Touche's. I mean, Touche made me want to cry at Brittany Yon's roast, when she read my family for filth, and it was just oh my God, she totally saw the deadness inside of us, and it was just how dare these children. So I mean, you guys have your own skills for sure, but
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Cooking Up a Queen. Make sure, guys, to follow Valerie on her social medias. It's Valerie Deville, I believe, on your Instagram. Can you shout out your handle?
It's the Valerie Deville.
The Valerie Deville.
Yep, and Deville spelled like the Cadillac, not the demon.
I love that. I never even noticed that till now. Thank you for pointing it out. I'm on painkillers right now, so I'm like so out of it in the moment.
Oh my goodness. Love that. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This has been a wonderful another episode of Cooking Up a Queen. Our outro thing is going to start playing here in a second. But please, thank you so much for Valerie Deville for being on. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Valerie. Bye, guys.
Thank you all so much for listening. Make sure to tune in next week for another amazing episode of Cooking Up a Queen. If you would like to be featured or place an ad, please email coco@thecdsdrag.com. Cooking Up a Queen is brought to you by the CD Studio. All topics discussed are opinions of the hosts and are not by any means reflected by the CD Studio or its affiliates. This podcast is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. Cooking Up a Queen is owned exclusively by the CD Studios. This podcast is executive produced by John Williams and Alistair Eliano. Original cover art and soundtrack provided by Alistair Eliano. Dubbed and mixed by John Williams.